I wanted to share this exchange with my audience because it perfectly illustrates how some people can become ideologically indoctrinated to a point where even when they are presented with information that is counter to their narrative, even when their faulty logic is exposed, they will insist and double down and resort to being arrogant and making personal attacks instead of coming to terms with the wrong things that they've said. So here we are, we're dropping in the middle of this conversation, which is an argument about whether or not the famine in Ukraine in 1932 was a genocide committed by the Soviet Union. And this person says the point was that it was a genocide, right? So I decided to respond, and I said that if that is true, then take it up with the UN General Assembly, the UN Genocide Convention, and 90% of the world's countries who don't recognize Holodomor as a genocide. If this is a basic historical fact, most of the world does not call it a genocide. So maybe take it up with them. The UN is the standard for international law, and they even created their own convention on genocide, which tackles all of these issues. So why do they not recognize this as a genocide? This person says, well, 90% of the world also supports capitalism. And then he asks for my opinion, which I'll get to. Again, I say there are 195 countries in the world. 167 of them don't condemn Holodomor as a genocide. Neither does the UN, and not even the UN's Genocide Convention. I said, take it up with them. Write the UN a letter. They enforce international law and are the legal standard. Present all the evidence to them. He responds, and who runs the UN? To which I respond, mostly the US. I even say not even the Ukraine has criminally charged or indicted Soviet leadership for the famine. Again, I say take it up with the UN and most of the world who apparently are genocide deniers. I even say you should read the charter for the UN's Genocide Convention. It's only 3 pages, it goes over all this. So in response to my claim that most of the world's countries don't recognize Holodomor as a genocide, he says, do you just generally accept what all the capitalist governments tell you? He continues, do you think world governments are going to call it a genocide when they themselves would be guilty of it too in that case? Once again, getting on your knees for your capitalist overlords, you are a great psyop, my guy. He says Britain and America and all the former colonial powers would have to say that they have committed genocide. That's why they don't. This isn't hard to understand. But the hilarious part is that both Britain and America do call the Holodomor a genocide. They're one of the 28 countries who do. So not only was the information he gave wrong, but the logic that he used to draw his conclusions was not even based in reality. And what do people do in these circumstances? Rather than admit that they have wrong information, they decide to personally attack. My own thinking on this is that there has been no evidence produced that has incontrovertibly, uncontroversially proved beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the legal standard of guilt, that the Ukraine famine was an intentional genocide. And neither does the UN General Assembly, neither does the UN's own Genocide Convention, and neither does 167 out of the 195 countries in the world. None of them have recognized the Holodomor as a genocide.
Nixon ordered Cambodian genocide. Clinton sent cruise missiles to Sudan, people died. Gave the orders to do drone strikes. Invaded Nicaragua in '85.